Hello guys, welcome to another video. Hope you all doing good. So in 2024, the electric two-wheeler grew by 33%, while ICE two-wheeler market grew by 18%. So clearly, EVs are taking up the two-wheeler segment in India. In 2025, should you still consider buying an ICE over an EV this time? So in this video, we will see a quick stats of things you need to consider before buying an ICE or EV. In this video, we'll see a comparison between ICE scooter and an electric scooter, since a lot of sales from electric two-wheelers are coming from scooters. So we'll ideally compare between scooters. The biggest thing about electric two-wheelers is that the upfront cost. It's common to all electric vehicles. It simply costs more than ICE. If we compare in scooter, let's compare it with the iQube and Jupiter. So the iQube cost around 1,50,000 on road, while the Jupiter is around 1,15,000. If you compare other ICE scooters and EV scooters, there will be a difference of about 30 to 40,000 rupees in the upfront cost that you will see with all the EVs. If you take a loan on that, the gap would still expand. The cost of owning an EV might go up a lot. So this you need to keep in mind. It completely varies between the scooters. For example, Rista and another ICE might not be similar because either is kind of a premium scooters. You cannot right away compare these scooters, but iQube and Jupiter would be a similar comparison in my opinion, since they have a similar build quality and service and all those things. So the second is running cost. Let's assume few things, you ride 10,000 kilometers a year, and then you own it for 10 years. These numbers are not coming out of air. These are very practical numbers. In urban, the average kilometers return is around 6,000 to 8,000 kilometers in a year, and the average ownership time is around 8 years. So these numbers are in the higher side of the average usage of scooters in India, in two-wheeler in general. So the running cost of the electric scooter would be around 25 to 30 paise. This comes from the calculations that your scooter is taking 3 units, which will be like one unit will cost around 10 rupees depending upon the tariff, but this is on the higher side. And then you need to charge it for 3.5 or 3.7 units. It will not take all the 3.7. If the battery is 3.7, you cannot charge it to 3.7. The usable would be around 80%, which is around 3 units. So ideally it should be around take 30 rupees for a full charge if you charge it at home. Obviously, charging stations, the cost might differ a lot. So let's consider you charge it at home. One full charge will cost you around 30 rupees, and it will do 100 kilometers. So if you divide, you can get that 30 paise per kilometer value that I mentioned before. Let's consider an IC in this similar situation. Generally, the ICE scooters give a mileage between 40 to 45. Let's take 45 for this example. If you put the calculations and let's assume the price of petrol is 100. This is of course today's price. This might change in future a lot. If you do the math, you will get 2.2 rupees per kilometer, which is nearly 10 times as much as electric cost per kilometer. So you can see the significant difference. Previously, we assumed a few things, right? You do 10,000 kilometers a year and you own it for 10 years, which is around 1 lakh kilometer. If you put the cost into this perspective, you will get a massive difference. EV will cost you around 30,000 rupees for the whole 10 years, and this is just running cost. But the iScooter will cost you 2,20,000. So there is a massive difference between the ICE and EV. You nearly pay the scooter's cost for the running cost over the time. Of course, as a scooter gets old, an iScooter will return you less mileage than we put in the calculation. 45 brand new scooter might offer, but a 10-year-old will come to 35. And it is not same with EV as well. EV in general lose the battery capacity. Like if you can charge a full charge, it will take around 3.2 kilowatts hour, let's say. If the battery is around 70% health, means it will take 2.8 kilowatts to charge. So the battery capacity reduces, but this will not waste battery. Petrol scooters simply lose the petrol in the exhaust. Yeah, EVs don't do that usually, but still there is some leakage in charges that happen over the battery's period. So you can say it's quite similar. Now coming to the maintenance cost, EVs don't typically have any maintenance in terms of powertrain. Of course, there is no additional things that you need to maintain in an EV from an IC, but scooter has some additional parts that you need to maintain, like you need to change fluids. Fluid means your engine oil. You might need to change belts. This is similar with EV as well. Belt in eighth scooters you will have belt, but most of the scooters you don't have a belt, so that might not cost you anything. So you might need to change air filter, spark plug, and then a few other wearable things. This will cost you around 12 to 15k over 10 years. So maintenance is not a deal breaker while considered between EV and an ICE. Yes, EVs have very low maintenance. Depending upon the brand you buy, the scooter might not be reliable as an ICE, but it's up to you. Let's talk about the lifetime of the ICE scooter versus EV scooters. EVs typically last less than ICE scooter as far as now. The main issue is the battery. The battery health might differ a lot from person to person. The health might not be same even if you maintain few preventive methods. Still you can have some surprising battery damage that can happen. It's like one cell can easily spoil the whole battery pack. There are few things that determine how your battery health is, like the number of cycles. Usually NMC batteries have 1000 cycles of charging. It can easily do. Even after 1000 cycle, it will lose some charging capacity, like it might have up to 80% of its original capacity. But this really differs from person to person. It really depends on the accelerations you do, the temperature the battery undergoes, and a lot of other things. So you cannot confidently say, if I maintain this way, my battery health will be this much. This will vary a lot. You can so the lifetime of the scooter, you can consider the warranty that the manufacturer gives. It's good that nowadays manufacturers are giving 8 years of warranties, up to 8 years. It is good. So the lifetime I would recommend you to own is around 8 years. After that, it will be a lot of risk to own the scooter. The reason is that if a battery pack is not good, means there is no one currently to repair that thing. They will not open and change the cells which have damage, which is not a reliable process to do as well. At that time, you should probably scrap the scooter and buy a new one. That would be a more viable option. Now coming to the ICE, we know it very well. It will easily do a lakh kilometer. After that, you might need an engine rework. I mean, replacing the bore and piston rings. In rare cases, some other components you might need to replace, but still it will cost around 15,000, which should be nearly 20-30% of the value of the scooter at that time. So there is not a much cost like EV. It will be 4-5 times lesser than a battery replacement cost. So you would probably extract 15 years and 20 years of life from an ICE scooter. So lifetime, it really depends. If you own for 8 years, this should not be a big issue. In fact, the average ownership time of a scooter or a two-wheeler in India is, in urban, is around 6 to 8 years. Now coming to the resale value, this is very interesting. Actually, ICE scooters have a really high resale value. If you buy a 1 lakh rupees scooter today, after 5 years you probably can sell it around 50% of its cost. But if you buy an EV, after 5 years it will lose a lot of value. It will go for 35% of the value. It's mainly due to the degrading of the battery. It really depends upon the kilometers that you have driven. Let's say a scooter after 3 years has just done 10,000 kilometers. This will probably have more value in it. It does not apply the same for the iScooter. The iScooter has a slightly higher kilometers. People will be willing to buy it if it's available cheaper. But in EV scooter, it really depends upon the usage of the battery. Battery is the main thing in an EV. Let's say you are selling it 5 years. The EV would probably lost around 60 to 70% of its value. The ICE would have just lost 40 to 50% of its value. So in terms of resale value, you again have some cost difference, which should be cost around 30 to 40k. So in total, you pay 1 lakh rupees more for EV in terms of cost of buying and then resale value, but you do get back the additional 1 lakh in terms of the running cost. Ideally, buying an electric scooter should save you about a lakh of rupees. If you own it for 10 years and do 1 lakh kilometers, I don't expect many people to do this much kilometers. Ideally, people would do around 50-60k. In that situation, you will save around 50-60k. So it really comes to the running cost. If you do a lot of kilometers, EV might be the better option, but still buying an EV, you would save some money, I would say. If you have done less kilometer in an EV, you can sell it for a higher price. So you would get back that, I would say. But there are other costs. There are few hustles in owning an EV over an ICE. In terms of iScooter, you can simply go to a fuel station and then fill it in a minute or two. But EV takes around 2.5 hours to 4-5 hours. It really depends upon the scooter. If you buy very low-end EV scooters, it will take a lot of time. Lead acid battery scooters are still available and people are buying it. It will take a lot of time. If you buy advanced scooters, this should take around typically 3 hours. And you should also have the charging infrastructure. Not really much, but you need to have a socket near your scooter. If you are living in an apartment, it would be a real hustle. You would not find any socket near your scooter. That time you might need to buy something with the removable battery and you need to carry it. So these also add up in buying an EV. But there are things that is better in EV than an ICE. For instance, the maintenance time. For ICE, you might feel like giving your scooter to service station quite often, but this doesn't happen in an EV. If you buy an EV, there is no first service, second service, nothing. After it done some 5,000 or 10,000 kilometers, they will just simply check the belt and the wearable parts, which you can do from your local mechanic. I would highly recommend doing it from the local mechanic since there is no other wearable parts. So in terms of maintenance, EV will not feel like you are visiting a service center that often. If you have a charging infrastructure that is good enough for you to charge every single day, owning an EV would be a better option and it will be hassle free than an ICE. In fact, owning an EV, there are some other advantages as well. The first thing is that it will be feature loaded. If you buy an electric scooter, it going to look futuristic. It has to look futuristic, and it is in fact easier to drive than an ICE. The throttle precision in an EV is really good, and you will also have reverse features and a lot of connected techs will be there. Of course, these are in higher end. Lower end, you will miss out a lot of stuff. But currently, in ICE scooters, manufacturers are not really concentrating on the features. They are concentrating more on the mileage and the efficiency, all those things. But if you buy an EV, it will be future proofed. So there will be some cool factor in buying an EV. And the EVs also generally get all LED lights just for saving some more energy from the battery. So it will look good in comparison to an ICE, and the sounds EV make is also really good. I'm not that enthusiastic about CVT scooters. I would say riding an electric scooter is better than an ice scooter, because in ice scooters you have CVT gearbox, and this has some rubber band effect. This is not the sportiest thing to drive. It's not a thing to be enthusiastic about. But in scooters, I strongly believe that electric are better than ice, so it will be easy to drive as well. So basically, if your commute can be done in an EV, let's say you travel around 60-70 kilometers, and there are many scooters that can do comfortably those kilometers daily, and you have a charging infrastructure that is good enough to charge your scooters daily, then go for an EV. There is no reason to buy an ICE over an EV. And the main thing is that the owning experience of an EV is better than ICE. You don't really need to depend upon service centers and all those things. Make sure you buy from a good brand. I would not recommend some EV brands. So in conclusion, if your daily commute is around 60-70 kilometers, or even if you have a higher commute distance like 100-120, make sure to choose a scooter in which you can charge 60-70% and do the kilometer, so that if the scooter gets old, you'd still able to do the distance, the commute easily. I hope you guys find this video informative. Thanks for watching. Bye bye.